Chapter 186 The Reversal of the Law 7 The Vortex Serpent split its shadow into dozens of tendrils and launched an attack on Chiron. With attacks coming from all directions, Chiron was momentarily defenseless. Then beams of laser scattered in multiple directions. Using a strategy that dispersed energy into individual strikes was an excellent choice. However, it came at the cost of reduced damage per second. Thick shadows wider than a giant's thigh surged toward Chiron. Onlookers screamed. It looked as if Chiron was about to be torn to pieces. One tendril couldn't withstand the energy buildup and exploded. Then all the tendrils detonated at once. A chain reaction of explosions reached all the way back to the serpent's main body. The vortex serpent extended new tendrils, but Chiron had already figured it out. Energy Energy would reach saturation faster than the tendrils could strike. As Sharon's energy scattered, so too did the serpent's durability. It couldn't concentrate its defense anymore. What followed was a battle of light versus darkness. It resembled a naval bombardment between two fleets at sea. Tendrils left after images in the air, and Sharon's flashes followed, triggering explosions. The attack tempo was so fast, it was impossible to track the shadow movements with the naked eye. Sharon relied heavily on his spirit zone's synesthesia, using it to guide his laser blasts. He fired from dozens of points, weaving a complex 3D web of light across the battlefield. Now it was a matter of who would collapse first from exhaustion. Sharon sensed he was losing. His throat tightened with anxiety, but his battle focus wouldn't let his expression betray him. Just as his mind began to fade, the vortex serpent let out a final shriek. It too was at its limit. Strangely, that brought Chiron a sense of connection. The serpent thrashed as if sensing its own death. But there was no more room in its shadow body to absorb energy. The laser tore through its entire form. A massive explosion shattered its body, scattering shadow fragments everywhere. The laser gradually thinned and faded, vanishing like water droplets in the air before Chiron's eyes. Everyone watched silently, barely breathing. Chiron, exhausted, remained standing. He kept his eyes fixed on the remnants of the serpent. The light vanished from the salamander's body, and it returned to its original white jade form before slowly fading into the air. Is it dead? No one could answer Tess's question. The creature had lived here for over 10,000 years. Countless citizens and outsiders had studied it, but no one had ever pushed it to the brink of death, let alone killed it. Rian poked around where the salamander had been with his sword. Gadrak checked the fissure in the canyon. The light spirit was gradually reviving, glowing softly. He spoke with conviction. It's definitely dead. Or at least, it's no longer here. Only then did Sharon collapse to his knees. Everyone stared at him in stunned silence. A human had just erased a divine law. Kanya, Lena, Gadrak, and Clove understood what had happened. That boy was dangerous. Laws are divine because they cannot be destroyed. Only a god can alter divine will. Sharon had crossed into a sacred domain no being was supposed to touch. Who are you people? Someone demanded. What kind of magic was that? How did you learn something like that? The group remained silent. In truth, even they didn't know. Sharon's magic followed normal principles but couldn't be copied. It was a unique magic formed from particles of divinity, powerful but with trade-offs. Lasers could defeat strong foes but weren't effective against fast targets. Photon cannons consumed too much mental energy for a basic spell, and rage form required perfect timing, but Chiron overcame all that, combining light scattering, near invincible durability, and infinite stamina drawn from the immortal function. No one could categorize him anymore. He didn't fit into any known type of mage. Canis finally understood why the magical world called someone like Chiron an unlocker, or unique. It wasn't just about unlocking the immortal function. What mattered was how well one could balance and harmonize their own divine energy. In that sense, Sharon was becoming truly unique. Clove watched him with mixed emotions. He owed his life to Sharon and didn't want to resent him. But if Sharon entered Norin society, who could say what would happen? They couldn't allow a Modian, a rogue, or corrupted entity to control him. But since they couldn't beat him in strength, they'd have to humble him early on. No need to brag, Clove muttered. If Master hadn't been injured, we could have escaped just fine. Even for outsiders, erasing a law is reckless. Now that the vortex serpent is gone, a new law will form, and we've lost our guide. This time we got lucky, but be careful next time. Chiron wasn't listening. His gaze was fixed on something that had fallen from the sky. It was a crystal shaped like a droplet glowing faintly. Hey, are you ignoring me? Clove barked. Sharon finally turned, pointing to the three crystals at his feet. Hey, what are these? They dropped when the serpent exploded. Huh? Wait, no way. Clove's eyes went wide. They were white elixirs. Clove had first seen them at North Shop on the mainland, a major marketplace. At the time, a spirit of a water droplet was being auctioned, the rarest item on display. An independent Nor group had won the bid with 23 white elixirs. Unlike water spirits, which came from oceans and rivers, droplet spirits were rare and not regularly formed. Though weaker magically, droplet spirits had cosmetic and healing benefits, especially prized by women. Clove remembered their value, roughly 4,600 red elixirs, or 670 green elixirs, requiring the hand of thousands of beasts to obtain. And now three of them had dropped casually from a bottle. White elixirs. Clove dove like a flying squirrel, trying to grab them, but Chiron quickly swiped them off the ground. Clove's face twisted with disappointment. Technically, Chiron had earned them, but greed made it hard to let go. Besides, Chiron didn't even know their worth. Ahem, I just wanted to look, Clove said. Can I take a closer look? Sure, Chiron said, handing one over. Clove snatched it before Chiron could change his mind. Kanya marched over, eyes blazing. Hey, why are you taking that? Even outsiders have rules. The one who hunts gets the loot. What did I do? We hunted together. Yeah, right, you did nothing. Sharon's the only one who deserves that. Give it back. You were arguing earlier. Now you're buddy-buddy. Hoping to cozy up to him for rewards, huh? Don't be ridiculous. Elixirs mean nothing to citizens. And Sharon, you need to learn something if you're living with Norins. Elixirs are food, water, air, life itself. Especially the white elixir. Never just hand it over like that. It's fine, Sharon shrugged. He just wanted to look. What if he ran off with it? Then what? Sharon laughed and leaned back on one arm. Run off? How? Kanya blinked. Right, what could Clove even do? Even if he took it, Sharon could stop him in a second. Sharon's allies stood calmly behind, watching Clove closely. They knew Sharon could end this in one move. Clove realized it too and looked embarrassed. Greed had blinded him. Gadrak sighed and said, Clove, give it back. That's not something you can handle. Clove's face flushed, handed it over. I was just curious. That's all. Here. Sharon caught the elixir, tossing it lightly in his hand, admiring how it reflected sunlight. What is this for exactly? He asked Gadrak. Gadrak checked how much the light spirit had recovered. It was almost ready. To survive in purgatory, human strength isn't enough, he said. The land is harsh. There's famine, disease, and poisonous air in some places. Elixirs help humans survive in that kind of environment. They come in 5 colors. All are essential, but white elixirs are the second rarest. Their purification and regeneration traits make them vital for air purifying devices and healing potions. Can I buy things with it? Of course, even where we're headed, Norse Refuge, there will be merchants, but for white elixirs, you'll want to visit Norse main market on the mainland. Chiron thought for a moment. If he got this from the vortex serpent, it meant others were hunting creatures of similar power. Godrak nodded. Purgatory is vast, immense. Really, Norins formed their own society, but many other communities exist. The place we're heading is only the closest thing to heaven. Beyond that, few dare to go. That's where white elixirs come from people who travel far beyond even us. Sharon tucked the elixirs safely into his robes, hoping there would be plenty of merchants in Norse Refuge. As in the real world, wealth only mattered if you could trade it. No use hoarding white elixirs if you weren't setting up a life here. People gathered near the canyon. Gadrak gripped the light spirit. His body glowed, activating an ancient magic called Elizar. White light flowed through the canyon's cracks. As the dazzling light dimmed, the original landscape was revealed once more. Where people had stood, only silence remained. End of chapter 186. Chapter 187, Norse Sanctuary 1. Is this Norse Sanctuary? That's right, it's a place strongly blessed by the light. It can shelter hundreds of Nor people. I heard there used to be an altar of light here, and its remnants still remain. It's more peaceful than I expected. Is this place safe from celestial attacks or heretic hunts? It's not that far from danger, but we've hidden it with a veil of light. From the outside, it just looks like a field. It was similar to invisibility magic. Invisibility bends light, using electricity to make things unseen, but here they reflect light perfectly, like a mirror, blending the sanctuary into the surroundings. A keen eye might spot the illusion by detecting repeating patterns, but realistically, no one would do such a task across this vast land. Of course, if heaven really wanted to find it, they could, but nobody actually cares about life in purgatory. Only the hungry celestials and obsessed Kergoins make a fuss. Near the forest, there was a small tent village. Some merchants had set up stalls but weren't trying hard to sell anything. They were chatting leisurely. Gadrock explained that these were merchants heading toward the mainland. The sanctuary was just a rest stop. If you wanted real goods, you'd have to go to Nor's official shop. Still, some people came here to trade for Nor-made items, like Kanya and Rena. Since they arrived, Kanya had been tense. If purgatory was neutral ground, this place was deep within heretic territory. She didn't even look at Sharon's group and instead asked Gadrak, "Where do they sell Norse medicine?" Maybe the apothecary's around. Try over there." As Kanya walked off, Gadrak called after her, "Just remember one thing, no fighting in Norse Sanctuary. You know that, right?" No response. Instead, Rena turned and smiled at Sharon, a sweet smile trying to make up for her sister's rudeness, but also a little bit flirty. "See you later, Oppa. Yeah, I hope you find what you're looking for." Though the sanctuary was large, it was still small enough that if someone left the range of Arin's spirit zone, they couldn't communicate. So this might as well be a goodbye. Sharon watched Kanya's retreating figure. She looked nervous. What had she left heaven to search for? As Sharon got lost in thought, Dedrock examined his wound. The bleeding had stopped, but the injury was bad. If he didn't get proper treatment, it could become serious. "I'll rest for a bit. Losing blood made me tired." Ask Clove about how to shop here. It's something you should know if you plan to stay in purgatory. Clove couldn't refuse, seeing how pale their teacher looked. As he led Sharon's group to the stalls, he noticed more merchants than usual and got excited. "Hey, about that Hey, about that white elixir. Hey, about that white elixir. Planning to use it now?" "Not sure, I'm just looking for now." "Why? If you're willing to pay a small commission, I could help you haggle. You probably don't know which stuff is actually good." There weren't many things you could buy here with white elixirs. It was like using gold coins to buy apples. But since Sharon didn't know what was valuable, letting Clove help might lead to some useful discoveries. He checked on his friends. They were scattered, browsing. Since they were connected telepathically, there was no need to call them over. "Sharon, Clove wants a commission. What do you think, Amy?" "We probably do need a guide. I can't tell what's worth buying, but can we trust him?" "Irene, I'll keep an eye on him." Sharon made his decision. If Clove tried to scam them, Irene could read him through telepathy. Hopefully it wouldn't come to that. Paying a small fee was fine. Wasting time on drama wasn't. "All right, show me around. Introduce me to what's worth buying." Clove led the way, and the others gathered around Sharon. Because many merchants were from the mainland, the selection was diverse. They started with essentials: food, clothes, bedding, common to most, but vital for heretics in purgatory. Clove pointed at a white, pebble-like bread. "This is kalaya, a must-have for heretic travelers. It's made with elixir. One is enough to keep you full all day." Amy crouched down and examined them. They came in various colors, but gave no clue about taste. It sounded useful, but was it a priority? "Huh, they look cute. Should I try one?" Clove jumped on the opportunity. "These are amazing. You could survive for a month with this, even in the wilderness. Buy as many as you can while you have the chance." He winked at the merchant. Irene scratched her head. It was so obviously fake that she didn't even need to analyze. "Irene, want to just do this ourselves? He's clearly not taking this seriously." "Amy, yeah, but let's keep him around. Who would have guessed these rocks were food? We still need someone to show us around." "Irene, he's not lying, just desperate to earn elixirs. Kind of feel bad for him." "Canis, no surprise, he's terrible at reading situations. No way he could handle real combat. That's probably why he's so desperate." Magical power levels varied, but they weren't everything. Context and how you used magic mattered more. Even the Vortex Serpent, immensely powerful, lost to Chiron due to tactics. A true mage's skill lay in quick and accurate decision making, something that took years to develop. Many mercenaries hired flashy mages only to be wiped out by poor decisions in battle. Canis, who had traveled the continent searching for Arcane's will, had seen that too often. In the three battles since arriving in heaven, Sharon and Amy had consistently made sharp decisions. Compared to them, Clove didn't even qualify as a proper mage. Next, Clove showed them the medicine stall. Sharon had earlier noticed Kanya arguing with his apothecary, but he hadn't caught the words. Clove introduced several potions. They were made with elixirs and came in small, colorful bottles. Red healed wounds, blue cleared the mind. The most common types. Other colors had unique effects. Pink enhanced love, brown preserved memories permanently. Sharon pointed at a white potion he had seen during Kanye's argument. What's this one? Clove narrowed his eyes in surprise and picked it up. Oh wow, this one's rare. It's not easy to make. What's it for? It's a stimulant. Happiness. It keeps you awake for a week without any sleep. Great for mages. If you're under mental attack like a howling spell, this can help you hold on. Sharon considered the explanation. If blue potions enhanced power, white seemed to boost endurance. A perfect fit for you guys. It's pricey, but I'll get you a deal. Want to buy it? Sharon had no interest in happiness. Sure, staying awake for a week could be useful in emergencies, but it wasn't worth using up a rare item, especially back in the real world. In Purgatory, you could just chug potions whenever needed, but outside, it would be more trouble than help. He even considered taking it before a big exam, but the risk of getting expelled for doping wasn't worth it. After that random thought, his mind returned to Kanya, a stimulant. What was she planning to do with it? When he snapped out of it, the group had moved to another stall. There were fast-growing vines useful for climbing cliffs, and fire powders that could boil water instantly. Interesting stuff. While listening to Clove, Cheryl noticed Amy standing off the side, staring at something. Curious, he walked over. Inside a cage-like basket, something was moving. A ball of fire. Was that fire? Alive? Clove came closer, and Sharon pointed to the cage. What's this? Clove stared, wide-eyed. Whoa, that's a spirit. Mister, where did you catch this? That's crazy luck. Haha, long story. I had a weird dream and went hunting outside the community, hoping to find green elixirs from sulfur worms. Caught a few, all red, sadly. I was heading back when a fireclaw beast found me. I ran for my life, tripped, and fell down a cliff. Turns out I landed in a fire spot, a place where sulfur gas keeps the ground burning. I was going to drink a brown potion to remember it. When this flame bounced toward me, I freaked out and used a spirit trap. Caught it just like that. Haha. Clove didn't feel like laughing. Why did he never get that lucky? Sulfur worms were common fire monsters, easy to catch. But surviving a fireclaw attack and finding a fire spirit, that was absurd luck. Sharon glanced at Amy. She was staring with longing. He understood. If it were a light spirit in the cage, he didn't know what he'd do either. For the first time, Sharon asked seriously, how much is it? The merchant blinked, surprised by the telepathic question, but responded smoothly. Maybe it was just his experience as a trader, or maybe Sharon's group wasn't the only one in this world not speaking the citizens' language. End of chapter 187. Chapter 188. Norse Sanctuary 2. Sharon's prediction was spot on, and the merchant went even further. Guessing they had only recently entered purgatory, I suppose we could haggle, but I doubt you can afford it. Spirits are extremely hard to come by, even in purgatory. I'm taking this one to the mainland. I only stopped by the shelter temporarily. Sharon had anticipated the spirit wouldn't be cheap, but the merchant's flat refusal to even negotiate scared him. Could it be bought with three white elixirs? If he confidently offered a deal and came up short, Amy's disappointment would only deepen. Deciding he needed a basis for judgment, Sharon dropped the idea of haggling and asked a question. I heard it's possible to form a contract with a spirit. Is that possible with this one? A contract? Ah, yes, of course, that's possible. But what would you even do with a fire spirit? If you contract with a fire spirit, you can use fire magic, right? Well, yes, but people usually don't waste valuable spirits in contracts. When a spirit enters a village, life gets so much easier. That's why most communities pull elixirs to buy them. People on the outskirts of the community live in harsh conditions and have excess elixirs, so they buy spirits under the assumption of forming contracts, but they're the kind of folks who live with that hanging over them. You two don't strike me as that type, so anyway, contracts are possible, right? When Sharon pressed the point, the merchant nodded reluctantly. It was a common attitude on the mainland. Nobodies who couldn't afford anything often made bold claims, and occasionally infiltration squads would try to devalue items. If outsiders from the community participated, the auction usually ended there. But unless it was a rare spirit, even those outsiders didn't pay much attention. Most dealings took place in tense, high stakes battles of nerves. Amy fidgeted with her fingers. She was a seasoned haggler, but now she couldn't say a word. If they were in a world where gold coins mattered, she would have emptied her savings without hesitation. But in purgatory, only items directly tied to survival had value. She didn't want to express greed and put Sharon in a tough spot. Sharon already understood. For a mage, boosting magical power was everything. If possible, he wanted to get it for her. Sensing the moment of decision had come, Sharon asked again, "Then how much elixir would we need to buy the spirit?" The merchant let out a chuckle, finding the question laughable, but when he saw Sharon staring at him intently, waiting for an answer, his expression turned serious. If you were to buy it here, at the very least." Sharon's heart pounded. Whatever the price, he hoped he could afford it. The merchant hesitated, indicating it was a high price. A white elixir. Disappointment flickered in Sharon and Amy's eyes. The moment he mentioned white elixir, the odds dropped drastically. Finally, the merchant looked up and named his price. At least one. What? Just one? Sharon doubted his own ears. Ones that had never betrayed him before. If it was only one, they could afford it. Realizing the same, Amy trembled with anxiety, afraid someone might snatch it away. Sharon quickly ran through the logic. At first, he only cared if they could afford it, but Majors let go of outdated thoughts with no regrets. Then he looked at Amy and smiled. She bit her lip and whispered almost inaudibly, "I want it." As the only daughter of House Carmis, Amy had grown up so wealthy that she didn't even know what material desire was. But in magic, she was just another mage. The merchant misunderstood Amy's desire as resignation. It made sense. White elixirs were rare even on the mainland, so it was only natural for newcomers to purgatory to despair. Thinking of his own daughter, the merchant offered some comfort. White elixirs are hard to come by. I actually cut the price a lot. If I were to go to the mainland, it would be a whole ordeal. Dangers too. So I made this deal under the assumption I could sell it here and go home. You two seemed sincere, so I did the math properly. Don't be too down. With some luck, you might find another fire spirit someday. I'll take it. Hmm? I said I'll buy it. When Sharon reached into his inner pocket, the merchant blinked like a fool. He was sure they were just messing with him and didn't know whether to get angry or laugh. But when he saw three white elixirs roll out of Sharon's hand, he toppled from his chair in shock. Just from the rainbow sheen, it was clearly genuine. Here, may we take the spirit now? The merchant couldn't say anything. He just nodded. Sharon placed the white elixir into his hands. At that same moment, Amy brought the spirit's cage close to her. A gentle warmth flowed from it, the warmth of fire. This was Amy's life. Hey, are you okay holding that? Isn't it hot? Having confirmed the elixirs were real, the merchant came to his senses and asked. Although spirits were different from inanimate objects due to their active nature, until a contract was formed, fire was still fire. Touching a hot cage should have caused burns. No, it's just warm. That's strange. Do you mind if I inspect it again? Even though I sold it, my conscience is pricking me. It might be defective. No, it's okay. This really is a fire spirit. Amy gazed lovingly at the spirit bouncing in midair. Then, through the mental channel, she spoke to Sharon. Sharon, it's a spirit zone. Spirit zone? Yeah, it's amazing. It's real fire, but it's also connected to the mind. I can feel it continuously. A mage doesn't get burned by the fire they create. It's real fire, but created by a mage. According to Amy, spirits too might possess their own permanent spirit zone. They had become something like mental artifacts. How did you get your hands on a white elixir, anyway? It came from a vortex serpent. Vortex serpent? Don't tell me you destroyed the law of the valley? Sort of happened that way. If they were strong enough to defeat a vortex serpent, it wasn't surprising they had a white elixir. Such people weren't common, but they did exist in purgatory. Merchants called them borderlanders or outskirts people. So how do you form a contract? I'm not sure, but I've seen borderlanders do it. They hold the spirit and meter something. It just disappears. Spirits lacked rationality, so it probably wasn't a keyword trigger that left word magic. You speak, you recall, and you resonate with the flame. Amy used the key the merchant gave her to open the cage. She gently held the spirit in her hands and improvised a chant. O fire spirit, dwell within me. As the fire spirit merged with her, a warm sensation radiated from deep in her belly. Forming a contract with the spirit felt like discovering a new ignition point. Separate from ignite, a new source of fire was now hers. When Amy summoned the spirit, a fireball blossomed and floated around her. Watching with satisfaction, she recalled the name of an ancient mythical flame, Jack-o'-lantern. This ghostly flame had disappeared into myth despite numerous academic hypotheses, but not anymore. The Jack-o'-lantern existed through ancient magic in this land called heaven. The fire spirit had immense strategic value. It could activate without ignite, move as she directed, and even split into multiple flame illusions, guided attacks, deception, multi-shots. Strategy after strategy came to mind. Amy noticed Sharon watching and dismissed the spirit. She wanted to say thank you, but the words didn't come. It felt awkward to say it out loud. It wasn't just an expensive gift. What she had received was probably Sharon's heart. Sharon smiled and turned away, as if he had known she wouldn't say anything. Only then did Amy start to regret it. Why didn't I say something? Did he already know how I felt, or did the gift mean nothing special to him? Sharon wasn't a two-faced person, but sometimes you just couldn't tell what he was thinking. He carefully browsed the merchant stalls. Watching Amy form a contract with the fire spirit made him realize that simply looking for souvenirs to take back home was too naive. Heaven was a place where one skirted the line between life and death. Any reinforcement should be immediately useful in battle. If such an item existed, its cost didn't matter. Buying it would improve survival. North Shelter was mainly populated by heretics from the community, so most shops sold daily necessities, but some merchants still held special items, too expensive to put on display. Once word got around that Sharon had white elixirs, a man quietly laid out his goods. Tess ran over and pointed at what he laid out. Oh, isn't that what I think it is? A beetle-shaped mechanical device. A drone made with Mecha Tribe technology. Clove rushed over to explain, now more enthusiastic, realizing Sharon was a big spender. In addition to known functions like reconnaissance and translation, it also had radio communication, map display, and more. What do you think? Want to trade it for a white elixir? As you know, you can't normally buy a drone just because you have elixirs. It's equipment for citizens only. Sharon was interested. He had already experienced the power of a drone through Kanya. If Tess could use it, it would be a great asset. Then Irene whispered that the price might be negotiable. The merchant had set it high to begin with, based on first impressions, but something felt off. The price was too low. If the fire spirit was a commodity, the drone was a limited edition. If it was smuggled from the citizens, shouldn't the price be sky high? Irene, could there be a defect? Otherwise, I thought so too, but I'm not sure. Still, he's asking a lot less than it's worth. The rest is up to you. Tess couldn't take her eyes off the drone. She was obsessed with ancient relics, whether it had flaws or not. If he bought it, she'd definitely accept. Sharon asked in her stead, how did you get it? I thought only Mecha Tribe citizens received this. Of course, but even the Mecha Tribe has heretics. He probably stole it before fleeing to purgatory. Just one of these could keep someone afloat. See here? The tether between the edges of the drone is intact. That means it's never been used. Came straight from the factory. Its original owner likely worked in one of the Mega Tribe's tech facilities. And where is he now? No idea. He could have escaped or died. Most heaven-made items end up in markets that way. Someone steals them, hoping to trade for elixirs, but ends up dead. All that's left behind is the gear. End of chapter 188. Chapter 189, Norse Sanctuary 3. Yes, it was possible. Just because an item belonged to a citizen didn't mean it couldn't be bought. Still, limited edition items were valuable. More importantly, the merchant already knew that the customer's maximum offer was 2 white elixirs. If the price he quoted was just 1 elixir, it meant the actual value was much lower. Can anyone use it? Sharon asked. Of course, the merchant said, as long as it's equipped, anyone can use it. Weapons like Signa, Exed, and Arc are universal, but drones usually require a personal encryption key. You can't use a stolen one, but this one's brand new, without an owner yet, so I can sell it. Sharon was uncertain. If it was new, there shouldn't be any problem with it. Was it just his lack of understanding of this world, or was the fire spirit simply that rare? Unable to decide, Sharon turned to Tess. Do you want it? Yes, I really want it, Sharon. Please buy it for me. The other items are cheap. We can get them later. Sharon chuckled. Her boldness reminded him how different she was from Amy. The white elixir was better used for everyone's benefit, so if they were going to buy something, they should. But since he couldn't tell what was wrong with the item, he wasn't sure how to negotiate. If he asked directly, the merchant would just manipulate the deal. Clove wasn't going to help either. Then suddenly a voice interrupted. Why won't you sell it? I brought exactly what you asked for. It was Kanya. Everyone turned to look. The merchant just smiled calmly. Miss, this is purgatory. There's no fixed price here. It's an auction. If the value goes up, you can just lower the price on your own. But a month ago, you said I could get Ephenis with 1 green elixir. I'm even adding 30 red elixirs. Why won't you sell it now? Ephenis. Sharon remembered the white potion the herbalist had recommended, but Kanya seemed far too desperate for it to be just a stimulant. Why would anyone need something like that in heaven? Yes, that was a month ago. The price has gone up since. No, even 2 or 3 months ago, you didn't say that. This is robbery. Miss, prices go up when people want something badly. Isn't that how auctions work? Your family must be running out of time for the ritual of rebirth, huh? You, Kanya's face went pale. How could he say something so cruel? Even Clove looked upset this time, but the merchant remained unfazed. He never planned to sell it to a citizen in the first place. Trying to buy Ephenis today means your family member will die soon, so I'll charge a high price. What's the problem? You bastard, I won't forgive you. Kanya pulled out her arc, but Lena screamed and stopped her. Violence was forbidden at Norse Refuge. Breaking that rule meant being expelled, possibly worse. The peace of the community depended on everyone following the rules. If that broke, everything would collapse. Please, sis, if you fight here, we'll die. Lena pulled her away, but Kanya continued to yell as she was dragged off. The merchant ignored her and exchanged a glance with the herbalist across from him. A silent agreement. Don't sell Ephenis. They had created a monopoly. 3 months ago, Kanya tried to buy Ephenis, but the merchant asked for something she couldn't afford. 1 green elixir when it was actually worth about 40 red elixirs. Since elixirs weren't standard currency, sellers could demand whatever they wanted. If someone insisted on a green elixir, all the red elixirs in the world wouldn't help, so Kanya had to buy a green elixir at a high price. Now, even with more than what was fair, the merchant still refused to sell. Sharon asked quietly, why is she so desperate? What is the ritual of rebirth? It's a life regeneration ritual, answered Gardla, who had come over after hearing the commotion. You know, citizens have limited lifespans. When they die, they undergo the ritual of rebirth. Kanya's mother is next. What exactly does the ritual do? Gardlock winced. I'd rather not explain too much. It's a sensitive topic. Citizens see it as a blessing, but most heretics reject it. That's why they fled heaven. Same with that merchant. He's not tormenting her for fun. He just hates citizens. But if her mother is going to die anyway, what's the use of the stimulant? Can it save her? No, the laws don't bend. From a heretic's view, her mother will die soon. But Ephanis, it's like giving painkillers to someone who's dying. It won't save them, it just gives a little hope in despair. Sharon's chest tightened. Even if their beliefs differed, a child wanting to ease her parents' pain should be universal. But the laws didn't allow for even that. Kanya returned to bargaining. Her desperation was visible. There were only two stalls selling Ephanis. She likely wouldn't get another chance. Sharon looked at the other vendor who avoided eye contact, clearly uncomfortable. What if I bought it and gave it to Kanya? Sharon thought. As if reading his mind, the herbalist quickly put the Ephanis away. He didn't want to get involved and violate Norse contracts. Kanya made her final plea. Fine. Put it on credit. I'll find the elixir somehow. Just give me the Ephanis, and what will you give me in return? Anything. I'll hunt for the rest of my life, if I have to. That's vague. What exactly will you bring me? The merchant wasn't hiding his emotions anymore. He hated citizens and heaven. No matter what I give, you won't sell it. So what do you actually want? The merchant pretended to think, then looked at Sharon. How about all the elixirs that boy has? Sharon immediately realized what was happening. From the moment Kanya brought Sharon along, the merchant had calculated everything. It was smart, but cruel. He saw the white elixir and got greedy. But since Kanya had no valuable goods, he used her to target Sharon. In business terms, it was clever, but a good merchant, not at all. Kanya was stunned. The more she understood, the more manipulated she felt. You never intended to sell, did you? You've been watching me suffer for 3 months for fun. What did I ever do to you? Sharon felt sorry for her. Emotional outbursts wouldn't work against a magician like this merchant. You had to beat them at their own game. You're painting me as the villain. The merchant sneered, but I gave you a real option. Isn't it easier to ask the boy for help than hunt forever? That's theft, and we can't fight here. How could I take someone's elixir, especially someone I barely know? There are ways. You're a girl, he's a boy. Use your charm. Kanya's lips trembled. She wanted to blast his face with her arc, but this might be her last chance. If she asked, what would Sharon say? He wasn't a citizen. Would he give up something as precious as white elixir? Still, maybe. Lena had said, I don't like Sharon because he's handsome. I like him because he's kind. Kanya had laughed back then, but now she saw the truth. Sharon was different. Maybe, just maybe. She turned to him. His face was calm. He already understood the situation. Kanya was nervous. What would he say? Would he scold her? Say, what do you want from me? Still, she had to try. She had nothing left to lose. Hey, she whispered. Sharon held out his hand. Here, in his palm was the white elixir. Kanya was overwhelmed. The emotion felt like anger but wasn't painful. Why is he doing this? Shouldn't he at least make her beg? Isn't virtue supposed to cost something? She had to ask. Why? Just go by the Ephenis. It's important to you, right? But it's not important to you, she wanted to say, but her voice broke. Sharon was different, not like other humans, not like other outsiders, not even like Ra. A dangerous thought crossed her mind. Is this what it feels like to fall? Thank you. It was all she could say. She walked back to the merchant, exhausted. Maybe purgatory was different from heaven. She was feeling emotions she'd never known before. She handed over the elixir. Here. Now, give me the Ephenis. No, that's not enough. Why? Again? She had no strength left to scream. Only her will to stay standing held her up. I said all the elixirs that boy had. And based on my guess, there's still one more. No, that was the last one. End of chapter 189. Chapter 190, Nor Sanctuary 4. Sharon tossed an elixir to a merchant who owned a drone. The merchant, catching it with both hands, trembled with emotion. He couldn't even grip it properly. It was a white elixir, not red, not green, not yellow, but white. Sharon turned his palm up and said calmly, So that's enough, right? Now give Kanya the medicine. The merchant shook his head. That's not how it works. That elixir has to be mine before I make the trade. Then take it from him. Sharon replied, gesturing to the man now holding it. The merchant's eyes narrowed. He realized Sharon wasn't bluffing. Sharon looked back at the man fondling the elixir and asked, Well, he says that. Are you going to return it? No, no, no way. I'm not canceling this trade, the man shouted, waving his hands in panic. Of course, a drone from Mecca had high value, if it worked, but the one he sold was basically worth a yellow elixir. Trading it for a white elixir, the deal of a lifetime. So what now? Sharon continued. Are you going to start fighting each other like fanatics? Seems like that's your specialty. The medicine seller's expression hardened. Negotiating with customers was one thing, but conflict between fellow traders, especially in basic necessities, helped no one. He now took a good look at Sharon. The way he pressured him, this had to be a northerner, and not a simple one. He hesitated. Trade the medicine just for that white elixir, it would be a legendary deal. But it was also about pride. He didn't want to give in to a heavenly citizen's demands. Forget it, I'm not selling. Go play with your toy. You just crushed this young lady's hopes. He walked away, choosing the satisfaction of winning over making money. Sharon understood he'd lost the game. No, you have to sell the medicine, Sharon said. Otherwise, you're breaking our agreement. What are you talking about? I didn't break any deal. You told us if we brought all our elixirs, you'd sell the medicine. Kanye did that. Now you're backing out, which breaks your word. You know what happens when a trader loses trust, right? He did. It meant exile from the community. Still, he felt wronged. Sharon was twisting things. Wait, when I made that deal, you only had two elixirs. Right after that, you bought the drone. So I'm not breaking anything. How do you know when I bought the drone? Sharon's shot back. The merchant flinched. Somehow Sharon knew. He felt it in his gut. He was the one at a disadvantage. I had already made the deal to buy the drone. I just hadn't paid yet. If you didn't check that, you're a sloppy merchant. Feel free to confirm it. Grinding his teeth, the seller realized things were going south fast. The drone merchant would back Sharon, because confirming their agreement meant he got to keep the white elixir. This kind of trickery was common back on the mainland. He'd done worse himself. Why am I losing? It should be the other way around. He suddenly understood. Sharon knew that the drone was barely worth anything. Somehow he had figured it out. That was the only reason all of this worked. So, old man, Sharon asked, did we make the deal first? Of course, I agreed to give the drone in exchange for the white elixir before she even raised her voice. He didn't have to say it, but Sharon had just proven it. The medicine seller had no way out. If there were overlapping deals, it was his fault for not checking. Was it time to give up? One white elixir was an incredible gain, but it still hurt his pride. So he played his final, most underhanded card. He began telling a story. My mother was a heavenly citizen too, but she refused to drink the ritual liquor. You know why? No one answered. He topped his head and continued. She lost her mind. My father was murdered in heaven by some lunatic who loved her. You know what punishment he got? 40 years shaved off his lifespan. That's it. He still had 40 years left. My father was dead, and that was all. Kanya flinched. Sharon didn't understand the full meaning, but everyone else was horrified, so she killed herself. That meant the ritual had to fall on me. I ran to escape the loss. That's why I hate heavenly citizens. Just looking at them makes me sick. You think I'd sell to one? He was unhinged now, ready to burn everything down. Sharon, unfazed, blew out through his nose. People who are truly suicidal don't explain their reasons. He just wanted an emotional victory. Sharon wasn't going to give it to him. So, are you selling it or not? No, I'm not giving up the elixir either. Do what you want, then I'll take it by force. Go ahead, but if you do, you'll be banned from the community. You'll be a wanderer for life. Sharon raised his hand. A glowing white orb formed, pure light energy. The medicine seller recoiled in shock. This kind of magic shouldn't be possible unless you'd formed a contract with a spirit of light from outside the community. Are you a borderlander? The whirlpool serpent was pretty strong. I get 3 white elixirs from that. Sharon showed no emotion, and the medicine seller knew. When a mage cut off their feelings, that's when they were most dangerous. I wonder what kind of elixir is in your body. Everyone realized, depending on his answer, he might die. After a long silence, the seller finally raised his hand and said quietly, None, I don't have any elixir in me. Please, let me go. Sharon fired a photon cannon. The white beam flew past the seller's nose and exploded into a nearby pillar. The man turned to Sharon, his face deadly serious now. Don't laugh, you may be bluffing, but I'm not. One more dirty trick and I won't hold back. I don't care about laws or communities anymore. Fine, you win. Calm down. The seller realized just how far things had gone. Sharon had drawn the metaphorical sword. There would be no more warnings. With a sigh, the seller threw the medicine happiness to Kanya. Happy now? Deal's done. One more thing. Apologize to Kanya. Why? You don't have the right to interfere with my personal feelings. But you have a painful past, right? What's that get to do with apologizing? I'm not saying you have to. Words without sincerity are worthless, but didn't you want someone to understand your pain too? Was that true? Had he still not moved on? He looked at Kanya, whose expression was filled with sympathy. She had said her mother was waiting for the ritual liquor. His mother had been insane. She screamed and hurt herself daily. Her fear had terrified him even more as a child. Who says I'm apologizing? He muttered as he packed his stall. He tossed a purple potion to Kanya. It's called Corfin. Strengthens the nervous system. I made plenty of you. So here, it's free. It'll work well with Ipines. Not that it'll matter in the end. As he walked away toward the tent village, he looked back at Sharon and said, Oh, and kid, everything I told you, made up. You beat me. But if you couldn't tell, you're going to get crushed out on the mainland. Irene sent a mental message to Sharon. Sharon want me to check if he was lying? No, it's fine. Sharon watched the man walk away. Nor shelter. A resting place for the wandering souls of purgatory. Maybe, Sharon thought, what they were putting down here wasn't their tired bodies, but their wounded hearts. Epilogue, the aftermath. Sharon comforted a weeping Kanya. Rena pouted nearby. Amy's group, minus Sharon, began a quiet discussion. They had bought three things with the white elixirs, a fire spirit, the drone, and Epines. Even though it was the best option in the situation, they couldn't help feeling a bit ripped off. Tess especially felt guilty. I know I asked you to buy it, but are you really okay with this? There must have been better combat items, and Epines was way overpriced. It's fine. If we need more, we'll go hunting. No need to dwell on the past. Rian's right, Amy said. Money isn't the only kind of loss. Sharon used the elixirs efficiently. That's what matters. Tess still looked worried. Yeah, but that seller was shady. We could have gotten the drone for half the price. Carnies laughed. That's not what Amy meant. Sharon didn't lose anything. He bought something you can't even buy with all the white elixirs in the world. What? The fire spirit? No, the most valuable thing was happiness. Tess thought Carnies was joking, but thinking back on it, paying a white elixir for something worth a red elixir, it was infuriating. Rian asked, confused, why was happiness the most valuable? It's a common potion. True, but today it was priceless because of who owns it. Kanya and Rena, heavenly citizens. Oh, now do you get it? Sharon didn't just buy happiness. He bought a ticket to heaven. Yes, they had no way into heaven before, but now with Kanya's help, they had a chance. End of chapter 190.